It's just the community that, we had on Res Dogs, is a lot of native crew. All the writers, the directors were native, the actors, the community that we formed. It being, one of the first times that this has ever been done. I had some beautiful moments, some beautiful improv moments that Sterling kept in there, some he took out. Just beautiful moments. And watching these young actors progress from season one to season three was unbelievable. How natural they became and how they formed their characters, and just being around the whole community was very beautiful for me.
Well, guys, four nominations this year, including picture editing, cinematography, and then outstanding comedy series and outstanding lead actor for DeFaro. What, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Zahn, if you know how to do those balloons that go up, now,
Yeah, I don't
I
know
mean,
how I did it.
it's huge, and it's so exciting to see the show finally get some of the recognition that it deserves as it's going off the air, which we'll talk about that for a bit in a bit too. But I mean, DeFaro, I want to start with you because I mean, you probably weren't expecting this. I mean, tell me the story of how you found out you were nominated and what your reactions were that day.
Yeah, how I found out I was nominated as I was asleep. And for some reason I've been getting this streak where I wake up to really good news. Like I woke up to Res Dogs. Like when I found out I had Res Dogs, my mom woke me up out of my sleep. So I'm getting this on this roll right now. So that's nice. But I woke up out of my sleep. I had my friend message me telling me that he's coming to LA and he has to come celebrate. I had no idea what he was talking about. So I was like, all right, yeah, let's go celebrate for whatever reason, you know? And he was like, no, man, like you got an Emmy, congratulations. So that's how I found out, and I spent the rest of my day hiking and accidentally missed a bunch of interviews. So
Oh, no.
yeah,
Well, you made it to this
in
one. The
Topanga,
important one.
yo, it's on in Topanga too. You know, because I know you're LA.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
have a nice day, Topanga. But
I
yeah,
mean,
that was
DeFaro, you're in. I mean, have you thought about the company that you're in as well? I mean, you're competing against legends in this category, folks like Steve Martin. It's got to be sort of a pinch yourself moment.
very much is. I mean, just getting nominated alone and having to acknowledge that in front of my name is always going to be either it's just going to be Emmy nominated for Woon-A-Tai. So that's very much an honor.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, I'm very honored just to be in the category with these men. I had the opportunity prior to be nominated with the same men, so it was very nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, it was amazing for DeFaro, but it was amazing for all of you to get
Yes.
the series nomination for outstanding comedy. I mean, Lane, to be a part of such a great show was amazing on its own. But what did it mean for you to finally see Res Dogs get that Emmy nomination that we've been kind of pushing for?
I think it's just an incredible feeling. If I'm gonna be completely honest, I didn't think we were gonna get nominated because we were against so many great shows. I thought, up against like there's so many things going on at the moment. Only Murders in the Building, What We Do in the Shadows, of course, The Bear, and of course a lot of those are Hulu and FX shows already, and it's great that there's so many of them nominated too. So I just thought like, oh, there's no chance we do. We're always our show's kind of flown under the radar a little bit. So, but it's really a special feeling that we got nominated, and it just I kind of didn't believe it at first, and I just even now it's still weird to be able to say like, hey, I'm part of an Emmy nominated show. I can say that, and it's truly special, and I'm really thankful for being a part of it and getting to do everything. Getting to work with the Pharaoh and Zahn. It's truly special. I can't say it enough.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the Bear, which is a competitor in the category, both big FX shows, but also it kind of reminds me. I think the FYC campaign for DeFaro should be consider the other Bear.
There
Exactly.
you go.
Throwing that out there. Zahn, what does this mean for you? You obviously, you've been on a lot of great shows over the years, but to be involved in this one's got to be extra special too.
That's very special. It just proves the fact that people are ready to see native content, and people are ready to hear our stories. And to be nominated for an Emmy is just a wonderful thing. It just proves everything that we've been trying to do for years, right? That people want to see our content and people want to see Native people on and stories on television. And now we are nominated, and it's a beautiful thing. I'm very proud of what Sterling and all the cast and the crew have done. I did. It's a little bit different because we were nominated for Fargo. Jesse and I think Kirsten both won Emmys, but this is just a little bit more special because it's close friends of mine. Those people are friends of mine as well, but it's Native content, and I've been doing this for quite a few years, and it's wonderful to be a part of one of the first Native shows to be nominated.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's huge, and especially for some of the storytelling that we've seen on Res Dogs too, for it to resonate the way it has, I'm sure sort of means something extra special that it is getting such a wide audience, and people are responding so positively to some of these stories that haven't been told in television before.
Yeah, I think people are just finally getting to see us in a different lens, and we're kind of chipping away at all those stereotypes that we've learned since television started with Native Americans, and we're finally getting to chip away at it and show everybody what we're really like, not just the stereotypes.
And I think as well, even to add on to that we're very much telling like a human story, and people can see that, non-Indigenous people can see that, even though it's very much specific to like the Okmulgee community and Native community as a whole, but it's a human story, and I feel like a lot of people can see that, and that's why it was big as it was.
I think I confess to Sterling every time I see him, like I've never cried, I think, more at a television show than I have at the endings of both season 2 and season 3. But let's talk about the endings of season 3, because obviously the show wrapped up with a mix of sadness. It ends with a funeral, but also a lot of joy too. I mean, and so much about community in this final episode, and everyone sort of is in an interesting place now. So, DeFaro, let's start with you because, Barry, he's learning to become an independent young man, particularly now that his mother is leaving for the city, and he's in a very different space now, too. How did you sort of take in where Bear ends up?
I didn't really know where Bear was going to end up. I mean, when we first started the series as a whole, I thought it was just going to be a limited. I mean, they told me it was going to be a limited series, so I didn't think we were going to go as long as we did. So throughout each season, I had no idea where Bear's arc was going to go. So I was very excited when I got to finish reading all of the episodes for season 3, because the Maximus episode with Graham Greene and the episode with Dear Lady with Deo very much was like what Bear needed for his arc, and I think Bear's in a really good spot now.
Yeah, Bear had quite a journey this season.
Yeah, and why I picked those two specifically is because Graham Greene very much taught him what his future may be like if he was trying to keep on running away from his community like he was. And Dear Lady kind of taught him what his biggest question was since the beginning of the first episode, which was, is he a good man? And I feel like both those questions were answered through those 2 episodes.
Yeah, and very, different kinds of episodes, but both very dense and with so much going on. Dear Lady in particular. So,
Yes.
Your thoughts on how much had you known about the tragedy of the Native boarding schools and the story that Sterling and his team were able to tell in that episode?
Yeah, I was very much familiar with that. I have family members who attended it, and instead of calling it boarding schools like they do in the States, they call it residential schools. So very much familiar. I feel like a lot of Indigenous people are. It's just non-Indigenous people are not familiar at all with it. But yeah, I kind of grew up knowing it, especially.
Yeah,
my first one to it. So yeah.
And it does feel like the show did a really important service in educating folks who were less familiar with
exactly.
And the fact that this isn't that long ago.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because they turned those schools, the Dear Lady episode, you see the residential boarding school in that episode. That's the same school they used for the 70s episode. And it kind of just plays on their dynamic of they just turned these terrible schools into schools that people attended in the 70s and 80s, which were not that long ago. I mean, I think pretty sure the last residential school in Canada was to close down in the 90s, right? 97 or something like that. So
Yeah.
it's been around
So
for,
Really, really.
super recent history. So,
yes.
so look who's joining us.
I'm sorry. Let me turn on my camera for the longest time, and then Zoom app had to update and everything. But I'm here now.
It
Sorry.
is Paulina Alexis, Willie Jack herself,
Yes.
house. Welcome as well. We're just sort of talking about the finale and just overall season 3, and also to you, congratulations for being a part of an Emmy nominated comedy.
Thank you very much.
Huge news. So, well, Paulina, I mean, you had an interesting season too, because so much of where the story goes in the end, and so much of it having to do with the larger community. Willie Jack sees firsthand as she's sort of being mentored by Fixico, and what happens impacts her so much, and she grows so much as a character. What was your take on where things went with Willie Jack this season and how it ended for her?
Um, um, you don't expect that from Willie Jack, because in the beginning, especially season 1, she's such like a little crazy kid. She's like a little shit, and you don't expect her out of everyone. Kind of like don't really know where she's gonna go. At least that's how I felt. And but it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense that it's her, because she hunts. She really has a big heart, and she cares about everybody that's around her. And I think community is like plays a big part in her life. Same as it does with mine. And I really like that.
Yeah, and she seems to have some real focus now on what her role is in sort of being a part of the community and helping the community, and so
Yeah.
she's definitely grown this season. And Lane, of course,
Yeah,
cheating.
because you go to like I was gonna say that you go to like any community, you see like a lot of elders who actually go above and beyond for the communities, and there's some who kind of just like sit there, and there's some who go above and beyond and like actually do what they can to help out and everybody. And I feel like Willie Jack taking on that role, especially that young. And that's like a message I want to like spread out more. Like if you're gonna do something for your community, do it like try to help out everyone as much as you can, like while you're still here. So
Yeah, no, I really love where
Yeah.
she ends up too.
I really like that.
Yeah, and Lane, I mean, Cheese, he ends up with sort of a sharper view on life too, and including the fact that he finally has his glasses. But how did you feel about Cheese's story in the end?
I do like where it ends, because of course when you compare it to the series, Cheese is kind of very much dependent on his friends. He's kind of whatever they want to do, he'll do. He's super supportive in that way. And then when you go to the end of the series, you see he's kind of become a little bit more independent. Well, that's not saying, he doesn't like being with his friends or he's growing away from them. No, he's just a little bit more able to stand on his own 2 feet, especially after things like the boys' home and, being with his grandma a lot, learning from his crazy uncles and stuff. He's just kind of learning to take more things in, learning a bit more to stand on his own feet. Like, how he kind of has aspirations to become a tribal horseman, or, oh my goodness, light horseman, or a detective. You kind of see that a little bit in the show. He always has a little notebook with him and things like that. He's always drawing and stuff, and he's always kind of taking notes on things and even mental notes on a lot of stuff. I like where it goes. You can kind of see like an idea of where he might go in life. You can kind of see different ways you can see that playing out.
Yeah, all of you could be spin-offs. I mean, there's spin-offs with every character, and Zahn, that includes Big and Bev. I want to see more of them too. But I love Big just when he does show up on scene, and always has something interesting to say or interesting perspective on things. But what were your thoughts on, I think the show ended in such an interesting note that it was about the larger community. Sure, it was about the reservation dogs, it was about these kids, but it was about everyone and about everyone coming together. And what was sort of your take on where things ended up?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think Big, he kind of went through, it showed a lot of his trauma that he went through in the past. I'm not just talking about the last episode, but the seasons of kind of what the inner workings of Big and what he had gone through with losing people in the past. And I think just like any human being, we're all looking for love. And I think Big kind of dealt with some of those traumas. And he also found love in Bev at the end. And hopefully they went off and lived happily ever after.
Yeah. Well, there's always hope that we'll see more of these characters eventually.
Yeah.
Because again, there
All
is so
right,
much more
drop
to
something.
them. Um, Paulina, one of the things that you also got to do, quite a bit on the series is work with Lily Gladstone, which, I think of everyone in the cast, you probably got to do the most scene work with her. So that must have been pretty incredible, especially as we saw, just her stature rise in the community. What was it like working with her?
Oh my God, it was amazing. Especially at the time, like I was going through at the time. I was not like feeling it those days. I was so homesick and like there's a lot of stuff going on at like back home. People were passing away and I just was so down and out and to the point where I was even forgetting my lines. I never forget my lines. And it was like the first day I met Lily, right? And she would like help me. She helped me rehearse. And I just remember like that helped so much. And like she's just like and I just remember thinking like Hudley, like, oh my God. She was just working with like Martin Scorsese and Killers of the Flower Moon. So I gotta really pick it up. And she's so awesome. She's like an auntie. It felt like she was just there for me and it made working with her a lot easier. That's just that in general.
Yeah.
But working with her, she's just an amazing person as it is. And she deserves everything that's coming for her. And yeah. And then
No.
to watch the movie and being like, oh my God, like I literally know her. That's crazy. So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean those are powerful scenes too, especially as sort of the dynamic changes as Willie Jack comes back and has grown quite a bit during her last visit with her in the prison. So, Lane, you were the youngest in the cast, and so in many ways you grew up while filming Reservation Dogs. What was that like for you? And how do you say how do you kind of feel that you really grew up on set?
It was, I think I can easily say my teen life was a little crazy. I was cast when I was, I believe, 14 years old. Uh, but we didn't even get to filming until I was 15. And just ever since then, we've just been filming every season, and it just I learned so much, not just about native histories and cultures through talking with DeFaro. He can talk about that for literally hours. But just but just things about film. I learned a lot of stuff from all these guys, from Sterling, DeFaro, Paul, Zahn, Devry, especially. I learned so much so quickly, and even just kind of different ways people approach different scenes. People always get ready for different scenes in different manners. Excuse me. It's I learned a lot from these guys, and I consider them my brothers and sisters. And for Zahn, my uncle, the crazy cool uncle. I love these guys so much, and I do not know where I'd be if it wasn't for this show. That's something I think about from time to time. Like, what would I be doing if the show didn't exist? It didn't introduce me to acting and stuff or the film industry. But I love film with all my heart. So so just being able to be a part of a show like this that's so important and so big and means so much to people is it's really touching, and it's something I wake up thankful for every day.
Zahn, were you the crazy cool uncle on set?
I don't know about crazy cool uncle.
He was
I mean,
just crazy.
yeah, just crazy, right? Not too cool. Um,
You
you know,
were
it's one of those things
buddy.
where you get to a point in your career where people start calling you uncle, and you get a little bit older, and that actually feels really good that my younger generation is calling me uncle now. I learned a good one last night. I was with a bunch of uncles last night at Indian Market here. We went to see a phenomenal documentary called Sugarcane. I'm going to promote it a little bit. A guy named Julian Noisecat, unbelievable documentary on the boarding school, on his community and how it affected his boarding school. I think you'll be able to see it on Nat Geo. But we somebody came up with I think it was Redcorn, not Ryan Redcorn, but his uncle. They call him Hunkle Redcorn, which is a hunk and an uncle. So, Hunkle.
Uncle.
So you guys can call me Hunkle now.
I am
Uncle
not calling
Zahn.
you that. I am not
Uncle
calling
Zahn.
you that.
Come on, Cheese. Call me Hunkle. Hey. Yeah, it's you get to a certain part of your life and your career and your age, and it feels good that these young people are calling me Uncle. It really does.
I'm not
Well,
going to call him
Zahn,
that anymore then.
I'm not going to do that. Wayne, you saw when Zahn gave the thumbs up, that bubble appeared, right? I'm not
Yeah,
imagining.
I'm trying to get that to
Yeah.
happen. I can't get it to work.
Is there a bubble?
Yeah, you put a thumbs up and there's a little
It was
bubble.
working earlier.
Are you guys? I don't see any bubbles from you guys.
Maybe Zahn just has Zoom Premium or something like that.
Something
That's
like
that
that.
Hunkle power right there.
It's Uncle Power. Speaking of Hunkle Power, I mean, Zahn's, so, obviously shooting two series at the same time with Dark Winds as well. How would you sort of compare? It's a very different show, clearly, a very different character, both cops, but a very different kind of story, very different kind of character. What was that like to sort of go back and forth between the two shows and, very different tones and very different ideas, but sort of, both with Zahn McClarnon?
When I first when Sterling asked me to do the show, I was cast as Gary Farmer's part, the uncle in the woods. And we couldn't get it worked out where. Well, no, what happened was John Proudstar was supposed to play Big, and Gary, and I was supposed to play Gary's part. And John got something happened at the beginning of the
He got COVID.
production. He got COVID.
Yeah,
Yeah, he got COVID.
Mm.
And so Sterling, I was up in Montana hiking, and Sterling was like, "Hey, come down here and can you play Big?" And I was like, "What? I auditioned for Big. Shit, you didn't hire me." And I said, "Okay, I'll come down." And I ended up playing Big, which I've enjoyed so much. But the difference between Dark Winds and Big, I was scared to actually play Big because I was already cast in Dark Winds to play a tribal cop, Joe Leaphorn. So I was a little bit worried about the two parts clashing and people, the audience, not really getting it and seeing me play two cops. And this is my third reservation cop I've played. So I was a little bit worried about that, but it couldn't been so, more different, between these two characters. One is drama, one is comedy. I'll tell you what, playing the comedy is a lot more difficult than doing the drama. For me, it's extremely difficult. I literally got on a plane, came down to Oklahoma, and had no idea what I was going to do with the character and just kind of jumped into it and threw some things at the wall. I wanted to do a Oklahoma accent, more of a southern kind of Oklahoma accent, and I started doing that. Sterling was like, don't do that." None of us do it. I mean, none of us do it. But I had no idea what I was going to do with Big, and I just kind of jumped into it and with all both feet, and it turned out wonderful. People people are, they always remark about how different the two characters are. And it relieved my worry for sure for the audiences and people getting that.
That is interesting. I do hear a lot from actors who say that comedy is actually harder than drama. And why do you think that is, or at least that is for you?
The timing, it's a lot of timing. I guess in real life, I can be goofy in real life and stuff, but it's just you got to worry about not trying to be funny. And it's just a very hard balance for me to do, and luckily I had people around me like Sterling to either bring me down or, try it a different way and good direction from all the other native directors as well. I don't know. It's just it's the fact that you think you have to try to be funny. And in drama, you're being more grounded and more realistic. I always looked at Big as kind of a almost cartoonish, but I think he came down quite a bit after a few seasons. But because Sterling's writing, obviously going back to Big's history and his past and his inner workings, it came down a little bit more. But that's a hard one to describe why it's so difficult. But it is more difficult for me to play comedy.
It is interesting. And you're right. The more we got to know these characters and you get to know these characters, the more grounded they are and the more fine, like the comedy and the drama and vice versa. DeFaro, what do you remember about when you first signed on for the show, when you first started talking to Sterling and what were some of your early experiences in auditioning for the role? And was it for Bear? Was it always for that role, or what got you to the show?
Yeah, so I started doing auditions, I think, if I'm not mistaken, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, like late 2019, early 2020, or something like that. And it was just a self-tape. I just heard about a project being shot down in Oklahoma. Looked at the breakdown, seen recognized a few names, was familiar with Taika's work, and I just did a self-tape. And what I came to find is that I remember I had two scenes, like 4 pages, 2 pages each scene. And I just fell in love with the character right away. I felt like, this guy I was very similar to. And that was even before reading the script. And then eventually, after doing auditions and getting a call back, I read the script and knew the first time after first reading the first draft, even that I needed to play this role. I wanted to play this role. And I felt very connected right away with the similarities with Bear and with my own life. And then we went to do the final audition process in Los Angeles. And that was a lot of fun. It was a long audition process, but we got to do the final audition process in Los Angeles. And that's where I met Lane Factor and everybody who plays on the Indian Mafia and Zahn. Me and Paulina, we worked together on a project prior, just before Reservation Dogs, which was a film called Beans, where we played brothers and sisters. So we already knew each other. And we spent maybe I want to say like an hour and a half to 2 hours in the audition room, just meeting the other people auditioning, who turned out to be, what you see now on screen as the Indian Mafia. And, by the end of it, my only quote unquote competitor, the only person who was going for Bear by that time was the amazing actor Dalton Kramer, who plays Daniel. So we just got to meet each other, got to hang out with each other, and built a bond really quickly. And yeah, that was it. I mean, how I kind of think I got the role was like I walked into the audition room, like I'm coming in there and I'm hearing like everyone laugh, like as they leave, everyone's just like laughing their ass off. And I'm like, like I can hear Sterling's laugh in the background. I'm like, you gotta be funny right now. And this is one of my first like real auditions that I did at the time for comedy. So I don't really see myself as good in comedy. So I was like so nervous. And then I walk up in there and I see they have this little, the camera on the tripod. Zahn was there too, he remembers, and I came and picked up the camera and I got them involved with it. The scene was when Bear's like, yo, what's up? This is the Res Dogs and everything like that. I pointed the camera to everybody, Angelique, everybody, and got them involved with it, which is smart little move that I did, which was just trying to stand out. I mean, honestly, it was just like that's what I think every single time. Like these casting directors, producers, they're watching like thousands of auditions a day or a week, so it's nice to stand out. And I did that. And I got the role, so that was cool. And I, woke up to it out of my sleep when I told you before that I was on a streak, and that's where the streak started. So there you go.
Shout out to Angelique Midthunder for putting
Yes, shout out to Angelique
this
Midthunder.
wonderful cast together. When I talked to Sterling, when he told me what he was doing, I was like, good luck finding kids. Good luck finding kids that are going to be able to pull this material off. And Angelique Midthunder went out there and got these young actors to do this job. And, you couldn't ask for more. She did such a great job, obviously with Sterling casting and Angelique casting, but she went across the country and found these guys. And
I remember when the audition process was going on, the first audition I went to was an open casting call, and there was like 900 something kids there.
Yeah.
And I asked her, like, because that was the first audition I ever went to, and it was an open casting call. So I kind of went in just kind of guessing like, this isn't gonna go anywhere. I'm sure they're probably doing so much stuff everywhere else. And I asked her, and like, why are you guys like casting? Like, how many places? And he was listing a whole bunch of states, different parts of Canada, of course, Los Angeles, places like that, a couple places in Oklahoma. And I was like, yeah, I don't really got a shot. And so I was just really surprised whenever, they asked me for a callback, and over time the callback pool got smaller and smaller. And it was the second one where I met like the Indian Mafia kids. And I shouldn't say kids, I'm pretty sure they're all older than me. But I just remember that very well. And also kind of adding on to DeFaro's thing, I remember when he went in, everyone was laughing. You could hear everyone in that room, in that audition room, just laughing so hard. And I had no idea what I was doing because it's the first time I'm seeing any of this kind of stuff. So I was just kind of doing what they were telling me to do, but I guess they liked it enough that, here we are now.
I mean, that's incredible. By the way, Lane, I've sensed just like Cheese, you do have kind of an old soul. You seem very, very wise and grounded beyond your years. But and the fact that you were able to get this job, starting with an open casting call, I mean, that's the dream, right? That's every aspiring actor dreams like this is. It's not generally how it works. So that's pretty incredible that it happened that way. What got you interested in going to that open call?
So I did an acting class before, and I'll keep the story short. But so I went to an acting class with my sister that my mom signed us up for. She wanted me to get out of the house a little bit more. So it was just kind of a fun thing to do over the summer while we wait for school to start back up. And so that's kind of how we got into it. But I've always kind of I've never done like theater or anything or like acted in anything. So that was like kind of the first introduction I had to, acting as a, thing to do as a hobby, I guess. But as far as, I've always watched movies and stuff, and I was like, I could do that part or something like that. But it was really there where I found that love for acting. And it was the week the classes ended. I think it was 2 or 3 days after the ended is when I went to that casting call. So it was like, literally, I put those skills to use like immediately.
Incredible. Incredible. And then
he was playing too many video games. Look at his setup right here.
Yeah.
Get out of the house.
Watching too much Godzilla movies and playing too many video games. Yeah.
Yeah, I was in Oklahoma for a film festival last week in Chickasaw, down in Sulphur, and guess who I ran into? Lane. I ran into the real Cheese down there. Who the character Cheese was based off of. Sterling based a lot of the characters off of people he grew up around, and I was hanging out the real Cheese down there.
Real Cheese. That's great.
He's a little taller than you, though.
Yeah, he is a little taller. I met him too briefly a couple times while we were shooting season 3. He's very nice, very nice. I can definitely see where the inspiration comes from.
Yep.
I remember when we were actually doing the original audition process, I was reading for Willie Jack. Willie Jack was originally a boy character. And it was after the first callback is when Sterling asked me, he goes, hey, could you read this part too? And it was for Cheese. And And I was like, okay, well, I was here for Willie Jack, so I was kind of in the mindset for that one. But then, over the next couple auditions, I was reading for both. And when it came to that final callback in LA, I think it was just me and Paulina reading for it. Well, Paulina, you were reading for Cheese at one point or two, weren't you? I don't remember what.
Well, it was supposed to be Willie Jack, but I think they mixed it up and it was like cheese. But it was supposed to
Yeah,
be Willie Jack.
because originally Willie Jack was a boy character, but then once Paulina got casted, of course, it's a girl now. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and Paulina, didn't you also read for Alora at one point?
The very beginning, yes. Oh my God. If I didn't get this audition, like if I didn't hear about it and then all of a sudden the show came out, I would have been so mad.
So how did you get involved? How did you first hear about it and audition?
My agent sent me an audition for it. And also me and DeFaro were talking at the time because we just finished Summer Beans not too long ago and um we're like, yeah, bro, it's got a sick audition. Okay, Taika Waititi, he just won an Oscar. And like, so like, yeah. And I didn't know freaking Sterling was 1491s though, like his actual name. I knew his face and everything. So then when I went there, like, okay, I'm going to. Anyways, I auditioned for Alora and I got a call back and they're like, the showrunner thinks she'd be really fun to read for Cheese. But it was supposed to be Willie Jack. And I was like, okay. So I read his bio and it was like, he likes to eat chips, kind of just follows everyone around. He's like the brute of the joke or whatever. And yeah, he's like tall, skinny, and just always eating chips. That's all it said. And I was like, okay. I know a lot of guys like that from like a lot of brothers and shit. So uh, I read the lines and I just knew like I fell in love with the lines and I was like, okay, I like this, but this doesn't sound good as like I don't know how to say it. Doesn't roll off the tongue as good as like it should. So I changed it and just made it change up the lines so how I would say it. And yeah.
Yeah, well,
I guess that's what really got me noticed because I changed the lines up and I just went full on res. I had a lot of influence and I was hanging out with a lot of brothers at the time, heavy. So it was really easy for me to get in character. And I had a lot of guidance as well. My brothers and my mom helped me. And yeah,
I love that you all.
funnest auditions I ever did.
Yeah, you all may not have like entered in the roles that you ended up with, but it ended up being perfect. Somehow, like you all ended up in the roles that you were meant to be in. So
Yeah.
as we hit to the final moments now of this panel, looking back now at the end of the series or just season 3 in general, I mentioned at the start of this that I teared up more than a few times through the years. The Daniel scene in the ocean at the end of season 2, and even just a lot of things that happened in season 3. But I want to hear from you guys on the moment that still stays with you. Is there one or two moments that sort of stick out in your mind that you still think about from Res Dogs? Zahn, I'll start with you.
It's just the community that we had on Res Dogs. Is a lot of native crew. All the writers, the directors were native, the actors, the community that we formed. It being one of the first times that this has ever been done. I had some beautiful moments, some beautiful improv moments that Sterling kept in there. Some he took out. Those were always fun, because we had so much freedom to ad lib, and I ad libbed Organic, and shit ass was just out of an ad lib, and the thing with it didn't make the show, but the Bev thing with the gum, and just beautiful moments, and watching these young actors progress from season 1 to season 3 was unbelievable. How natural they became, and how they form their characters, and just being around the whole community was very beautiful for me.
How about you, Lane? What's your kind of takeaway from the experience?
I think it's just incredible just how far we've all come, because I've seen, just kind of how we all grew together over the series, even just if it was just a little bit. But I don't think I can think of like specific moments I'd say like really stick out to me, just because when I think back, if I think of the whole thing, I think of, we were filming season one, kind of on the first day, we were in that neighborhood area and we all took like a group photo, just kind of that first day of filming. And I remember when we were just all through shooting season two, just that entire thing. I remember how nervous I was doing that solo episode at the boys' home, because that's kind of the first time I had to do something by myself without the Res Dogs there, like for an extended period. Because even with season one, when I was kind of like my episode, I had Zahn there the whole time, and it was just as much his episode as it was mine. But in season two, that was the first time I was alone, and I was super nervous about that. I was like, man, there's no way of getting out of this. But then once we were doing it, it felt very natural. Everyone there was very supportive. Everyone there was really cool. The guys from the boys' home were all super cool guys, uh, I just remember that, and that just kind of helped me step out of that shell a little bit more and get more comfortable with doing things on my own. Without needing the support of the Res Dogs 24/7. So I think the growth Cheese had from there was kind of a little bit equal to my own, of learning to stand by yourself a little bit. So it's just things like that. I remember how cold the water was at the end of season two. That ocean water was freezing. Um, and season three is just incredible. That entire thing I hold very close to my heart. When I think of season three, I can't say of one particular moment I enjoyed filming the most, because I enjoyed every part of it, every second. From having to wake up, getting there, doing the scenes, going home, and playing games until I need to fall asleep. Sometimes me and DeFaro would play games afterwards. We'd go eat somewhere. We would, all of us would go do something. All through seasons 1, 2, and 3. So it's just, I can't think of a single moment where I'd say that sticks out more to me than anything else.
It's very cool. Paulina, I know last time I had a chance to talk to you, you were still bummed that it was over. You weren't ready for it to end. You still sort of saying like, come on, there could have been another season, Sterling.
Yeah, I think in my heart everybody feels that way, but like it's okay. Like I'm still, this show will forever like have an impact on my life and an impact on Indigenous TV. And yeah, it changed the game. Like it's about time we had a show like this, and yeah, I'm just very grateful for this opportunity. We're all just like really just a big family. I think that's what I'm gonna take away from it the most. Like creating a big family and like all the memories. Kind of like what Lane said, like I don't really miss like specific parts of it. Yeah, there's parts that are like really fun and stuff, but also you just think about like the whole thing, how fun it was. Like all together.
Well,
Shout out to the sound crew for being my boys on set. That's who I'd hang with the second those cameras would say cut.
Shout out Royce.
Yeah, shout out Royce and Ryan and Zach.
Well, I'm going to give the final word to Emmy nominee DeFaro Woon-A-Tai. Emmy nominee DeFaro. Take us home.
Special treatment.
What did the show mean to you, and how are you feeling now looking back at this whole experience?
Damn. What does it mean to me? I mean, it definitely was the biggest thing that took off my career. It made me move to the States because of it, which was very nice. And I've been here for 2 years now. But it's very close to my heart. I mean, it's a project that I've always wanted to do since the beginning of acting. And I think that if anyone was to ask me what was like a dream role, it was that. Working on a project that was not just the first time, but all native writers room, all native directors, and all native main cast. And it's something very close to me. It's my heart. I think Oklahoma is like one of my favorite states. I've been around a bunch, and Oklahoma is definitely one of my favorite states. We have a lot of memories there. crazy memories. I got a chance to go everywhere. The biggest mistake they made was giving me a rental, and I just went everywhere, out of state, in the state, every inch, honestly. So I miss Oklahoma as a whole. What I took away from it was definitely how I approach working on other indigenous-led projects. I think it's very important that if we have indigenous storytelling, that it should be directed, written by Native people, and I think that that's what I took from it the most. Really, was how I approached new projects containing native content. Really, and also when I went to New Orleans, me and Paulina drove to New Orleans, and like around season 2, and that was like just a crazy highlight. But we have other highlights, but that was just the craziest one. 'Cause I'd never been.
If I can quickly add real quick, I remember that weekend I was going to bring it up. It was literally just I asked like DeFer like, hey, do you want to go do something this weekend? The weekend we have off, and he's like, dude, me and Paul are in New Orleans. We're in Louisiana. No, no clue. It was just a regular weekend, and they were just all the way down there. That's just the stuff DeFero was doing all season. He was going everywhere. He was exploring the entire state.
Yeah, but Paulina
We
wasn't.
went to the funny spot shooting site, and he was looking at a bunch of history shit. What was it?
Yeah, I just pulled over to a bunch of history stuff. Check it out.
Yeah.
Louisiana has crazy history. Oklahoma as a
Like
whole.
every historical mark ever.
I
Okay.
lost
Yeah,
count of.
we did.
I
That sounds
lost
like
count of how
another
many. Sorry, I lost count of how many tornado warnings we had while we were filming.
God.
No, that's fun. That's just part of Oklahoma life.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's too normalized over there, man. That's so scary, and they're just chilling.
And my
Oh.
driver was just like,
Real quickly before we end,
Yes.
don't want to take up too much of your time. I just want to quickly add a small little story. When we were shooting the second episode of season 1 at the Indian clinic, it was me and Irene sitting outside. It was supposed to be, and originally in the script, it was supposed to be us sitting outside watching the sunset. But it was so stormy and gloomy that day, we were just kind of outside, just kind of enjoying the atmosphere. And we actually had to cut that shot a little short because we had lightning delay. And because that was essentially the end of the episode and we filmed everything, we were just like, all right, we'll just call it there. And it was the second they called it, it started to hail. And as we were getting like literally less than 5 minutes later, we were under tornado warning. So that's literally what happened within the 10 minutes after, us just sitting there watching the sky at the end of the second episode of season 1. 10 minutes after that camera stopped, tornado warning.
So if you love Twisters, you'll love Res Dogs. That's not at all the message that you should get from this, but in regardless, for your consideration, Res Dogs and DeFaro, and congrats to all of you. What a run, what an amazing journey. Thanks so much for joining us. DeFaro, Lane, Zahn, Paulina, so great to see you, and best to all of you. And thanks everyone for joining us here at the SAG-AFTRA Foundation.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much.